Senator Dolan.
Thank you very much, Cahirlook. I suppose today we're getting the representations here from students and teachers. I mean, it's at primary, post-primary, further and higher education, and I know that's also including our PLCs. I want to thank everyone for submitting their opening statements. There's a body of information there, and I suppose that really talks to us an awful lot about the role of the senior cycle reform. I suppose in particular to thank you, all the organisations that are with us today, the ISSU and the USI on behalf of the students, and the IFUT, INTO, ASTI, I mean, all on behalf of the teachers and educators as well. Thank you so much for giving us your time this morning. I suppose it is the students' experience and it is their future endeavours, I mean, their careers and vocations is really what's at heart of our discussions here. And I suppose when it comes to the reform of the senior cycle, I suppose we know that Minister Simon Harris and Minister Norma Foley have both contributed and both are very committed to reform in this area. I suppose some of the points I just wanted to make was that, our own educational system, I suppose, adapted in the last 18 months due to urgent need. And I mean, that's thanks to the educators that are here today and to our students that had to really develop a system. And I know that came down to the accredited grades and so on to support students, I suppose, getting through the last year and 2 years. And we owe a debt of gratitude for the work that's been completed to date. I suppose what I really would like to recognise as well, and I know I met locally with some of our teacher representative groups. I know I met with the INTO who explained very clearly their perspective on I suppose the last 18 months as well. But we do have a really high level of qualification, I suppose, amongst our teachers at post-primary. I suppose some of the things is that we would like things to be a little bit different. I mean, we know that so many of our students and second level students go forward for the CAO form. That's over 84,000. It's a huge number. That is the way things are. We may wish them to be different, but that is currently the way things are. Mr. Simon Harris has done a lot in terms of reform, in looking at reforming the CAO form to allow, I suppose, that along with SOLACE and the IUA to include, I suppose, our apprenticeships, our further and higher education places, to make sure that students are fully aware of all the options that are out there. It's been mentioned here as well, about the cost of going to third level and that there are options out there for earning and learning, and that, families and students need to be sort of hopefully made aware of that. And sometimes it does come down to communication, and by having those extra options on the CAO forms, that will encourage students to see what other options are out there. I suppose some of the questions that I might have is just in relation to the statements that we just received as well. And I know the statements have really covered a wide amount of areas. I suppose it's over the sort of subject choices, I suppose about digital learning, it's about the assessments. It's also about, I suppose, well-being, access and equality. And I suppose just from some of the notes and some of the information that we received, the questions I suppose that I would have would be along for our students, and particularly say for Claire Ostek, maybe from USI, and from Emer, I know from the ISSU, it's just along for students. At third level, Claire, the high rates of dropouts at first year. I'd just be a little bit curious if you have some detail on that. I know, like say, in more of the STEM courses, we sometimes see a high level of dropout. I know that some of the figures that I've seen, could be up around 7,000 a year, in terms of dropouts at third level. How can we support students at that point, and what can we do when you think of that and you take the Leaving Cert into account? And if I could maybe just pose the same question to Emer, so many students maybe are going down the track of the CAO at second level. You see this yourself, and I'm sure in the organisation that you're representing. What ways can we engage with our career guidance, maybe, in terms of this potential reform of the Leaving Cert? For our representative, apologies, Michael, is it? And Maureen, sorry, I'm trying to just see who's here representing IFUT. Apologies now, I think I might be mixing up a few names. Thank you, Frank, apologies. So Frank, maybe if you might speak just a little bit in terms of from a further and higher education level, from our PLCs, from our GRETB, and I'm sure some of the organisations as well may have representatives from that further and higher level sector as well, perhaps Michael, sorry, under the TUI. But just how are they finding it when students come to them in terms of managing, dropouts at that first year? And I'm just very interested in that part. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Is it Mr. Jones wants to come in?
Great, thank you. Thank you, Senator. Yeah, just on the issue of academic preparedness, I suppose, for students entering higher education and entering my particular sector, which is the university sector. Yes, you're quite right. I mean, the rates of dropout are particularly high in some subject areas. I just look here, between 60 and 80% in third level computing and engineering courses. There can be a dropout rate of, I say, up to 60 to 80% in first year. And that's far too high. It was mentioned earlier about the possibility of having more preliminary subjects at first year, maybe a reduction in the number of particular subjects. And again, this stems from what I suppose has been the theme of this meeting, is trying to distinguish between the Leaving Cert and the points race, and the view that if you get the points for a particular subject, and those points are set by demand and supply, if you get the points for particular subjects, that you're wasting an opportunity if you don't enter into that field, which may not be the area for you at all. So there needs to be, it's been mentioned, the word was mentioned, decoupling, and Professor Hyland's report was referred to in that. There needs to be a decoupling. And again, a lot of this stems back to the budget and the career guidance, the stuff we've talked about earlier. I hope that answers the question, Deputy.
Thank you. I might just bring in maybe Claire, if that's all right, and Emer. Thank you, Chair. And sorry, Michael, I know you're looking to come in as well. Claire, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you very much for this question as well. I think, yeah, this is the unfortunate reality that many people do decide to drop out, or that they don't avail of the supports that they need early on in their first year, even throughout college. But I think it comes down again to, first of all, the preparedness, even how the Leaving Cert is taught, whereas, third level education is very on an individual basis and independent learning. But also a lot of students who are in college are doing their second or third or fourth option choice because they didn't get their first one as a result of the CAO points. So again, it comes down to the point system, how that's interlinked with it all. But at the end of the day, what we can do to try and support that is, first of all, emphasising the different pathways that are available to students. Some students would benefit from taking a year out or doing a PLC, or doing something, some other work before going to college. But then also, if someone is struggling during their course, a time that they avail of the supports that are available to them. So then investment into the support services that are there and awareness to support students progress. Because when we talk about access to education, it isn't just about entry into third level education, it's the progression throughout and the opportunities that are available on the other side as well after having a degree and graduating. So yeah, I think it comes down to the point system, students maybe not being fully prepared in terms of what's expected of them in terms of the independent learning, but then also recognising that many students might drop out because it's not the choice that they wanted and they didn't get their first option. And a lot of students then go into like undenominated arts or science because they didn't get their chosen course. So just to keep that in mind.
Thank you, Claire. So perhaps maybe having wider areas open, maybe at first year within our colleges and third levels, perhaps might be a way to support students. Is there anything then with the Leaving Cert, Emer? Can I just ask you that? So say you've heard here about second level, people dropping out in first year. What can we do then with the Leaving Cert to try and prevent that?
Well, firstly, the ICC believes that we need to allow students to gain other ways to gain points and through other forms of recognition, such as extracurricular achievements, when applying to further and higher education, while of course ensuring that the opportunities to take part in such additional activities are available in an equitable manner to all students. And this would provide students with a greater understanding of their own strengths and weaknesses, and would also allow them better insight into what they might want to study at third level education, if that is the route that they choose to progress towards. And additionally to this, we need to greatly increase the number of university admission places through access routes, while normalising PLC courses, apprenticeship programmes and other forms of further and higher education. The ICC believes that our goal should be to reduce the competition of the points race, and to provide support to guidance counsellors in helping their students choose the right pathway to them through education and a better understanding of what their strengths and weaknesses are.
Thanks very much, Emer. I think there's an extra 4,000 places, within the CAO that's been allocated through the third level at the moment. I think there's roughly 60 apprenticeships and they're looking at developing another 18. So, we would be looking to increase the number of places like you've mentioned there, sort of within our apprenticeships and within the PLCs. If I might bring in, Mr. Gillespie, thank you so much on behalf of TUI. Thank you.
Thank you. I suppose one of the big things is the support students get before they fill in the CEO form in schools. I mean, over the last 10 years, we have had serious cutbacks in the career guidance structure. We have a guidance counsellor in a school of 700, only one. We have schools that are below a certain level who don't have guidance counsellors. The idea of where we had pastoral care pre-2009, where we had, teachers who were year heads, all that has been cut back over the last 10 years. So therefore, the individual care that we've been capable of giving to every student has been radically reduced. And students, it's not that they may not be able for the course, they just mightn't have an interest in the course. They picked the wrong route. And that's because people haven't been focusing on them and supporting them. People don't get through the cracks. It's not, giving us more place in college is only one aspect, because they're going to be eaten up by the demographic increase over the next couple of years of people going to Leaving Cert anyways. So it is preparedness and focusing minds on doing the right thing. And again, there's nothing wrong, as people had said earlier, you could go off and do an apprenticeship and then go and do a degree years later even, and how better an engineer you might be for that if it's in one area. So we've got to open people's minds to the different routes that are available. And that can only be done by supporting them in school with proper guidance counsellors, enough of them to start with, and also pastoral care systems that spot students who are maybe a little bit lost and maybe putting down the wrong choices because external reasons have told them, put that down. Why would you waste X number of points, as Frank said earlier? People just fill it in for the wrong reasons.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gillespie. I think it is really crucial that we do, that students are able to engage with the likes of the career guidance person, within each of the colleges. And I suppose what has happened, with the development of the Department of Further and Higher Education and the Department of Education is that it's very clear now how the budgets are being allocated, between education and further and higher. I know there's an extra 400 million going into education, I think, in the 2021 budget, but we do have to look at such crucial areas as I know very, very important class sizes, particularly in rural areas, which is some of the areas I look at as well, and particularly at primary school level. And although we're looking here very much at the senior cycle reform, Cathaoirleach, Chair, I don't know if I have time. There's one other person that would like to come in.
Unfortunately, your time is up.